We'll go ahead and get started. Call the meeting of City Council to order and remind everyone to please turn their cell phones off or put them on mute. And would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Cheatham has asked me to offer the invocation this evening, so would you bow with me? Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful to be able to be about thy city's business this evening and pray for inspiration that we might do those things that are pleasing unto thee and right by the citizens who trust us to carry out the will of our citizens. Bless our efforts and particularly protect and direct those who are in harm's way around the world, protecting the freedoms of America and those principles that we hold dear and true. We're grateful for those who are here tonight to participate and observe, and all citizens who might be seeing us on television or otherwise. May we be able to do the will of the people and do thy will, more importantly, in all that we do. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen. Amen. Didn't I tell you to turn off your cell phone? Sorry. Are there any amendments to the agenda? If not, the next item on the minute is the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 13th meeting, which should have been sent to you by email. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
Mr. Mayor, when I was reading these minutes, there was a couple of typos, and I failed to mark those, and I'm sorry for that. I wonder if Sheila could look at those and look at the minutes and those typos in a couple of places, and I might can get it to you before the night is over. Okay. But could we approve those? Yes, on the conditions?
On page two, on the citizens' time in the middle, an employee situation involving a email should be an email.
You must have had the same English teacher I did. And she still looks over me today. Are there any other corrections? Are there any substantive corrections other than grammatical? If not, may I have an approval?
Does it matter? I don't know what was really said, but does it matter where the fire chief went? Does that really matter?
I don't think it's material.
It's not public information.
Well, it's in here, but I think it's wrong.
Huh? Where is that, Ben?
I thought it was Oman. It was Oman in Hollywood. Let it go.
Okay. All right. Okay. If not, may I have a motion to adopt the minutes as will be corrected grammatically?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And aye. Motion carries. Thank you. For citizens' time, I have one person who signed up. Two people who signed up to speak. The first is Dr. Linwood Johnson.
To Mayor Council, Vice Mayor Johnson, to the Honorable Council, good evening. This afternoon I would like to thank you for working so diligently and with your help developing the Christmas parade. It was something that was fantastic for the city of Franklin, all of its citizens, and everyone is still buzzing about it.
Good.
So I would like to thank you for that. And on that same note, we're coming before you again as representing the Franklin Christmas Committee. I would like to read just a few names of some persons who are present who played a very important role, are in here now to come before you also. Mr. Ron Radcliffe, Mr. Clyde Parker, Franklin Lions Club, Mrs. E. Ashburn, Order of Eastern Stars, Chapter 72, Mr. Woodrow Wilson, Franklin, would you please stand? Franklin Star Lodge 288, Mr. Anthony King, Franklin Sportsman Association, Mr. Dan Howell, Franklin, Downtown Franklin Association, and Franklin Rorton's Club, and Mr. Frank Davis, Franklin Parks and Recreation. And there were others, fraternities, sororities, and other groups, and as well as my group, L.W. Johnson Associates. As a committee, we worked diligently to make it happen for you, and that was the parade last Christmas. And we're looking forward, and we solicit your support and help on this community effort as we attempt to work with this again to make Franklin a better place and to make everyone happy. It's something about the Christmas parade that brings us all together as one, and that's a beautiful thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. I would assume that means that a committee exists
Yes.
and would like to continue to function?
Yes.
Great, good. Great.
Thank you.
May I entertain a motion by council to endorse your efforts for parade coming up? Would someone like to make such a motion?
Did we have a committee, did we form a committee, or the city manager just went on and formed us?
The city manager just did it.
Yes.
But by
staff.
endorsing, you're just saying encourage them?
Encourage the idea and the
Okay.
continuation of the committee.
Okay.
Would that be acceptable? And to encourage it. We all agree it was a highlight of the year.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you all for your good works and extended involvement by many, many people. May I have such a motion?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 And aye, with gratitude.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you much.
Dan Howe, does that mean that you've had your piece? or-
That was in case Linwood got hoarse or something.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I failed to make introductions. We have with us tonight Robert Robertson from Troop 17. I would introduce the whole troop, but he's the only one coming. He's here tonight working on his citizenship in the community. We're always glad to have our scouts come and participate and learn about city government. Welcome, Robert. And I would have introduced him directly, but he was introduced by a committee. But I'd like to pay special attention to Clyde Parker, who has become the historian for the 50th year anniversary, and the amazing amount of research that he's gladly done that's reminded us all of the history of Franklin. Clyde, thank you for the great work in the newspaper articles and everything that you've contributed thus far. Thank you. The next is financial matters. Ms. Ralston?
Good evening, Mayor Council, Mayor Johnson, excuse me, our City Manager, Mr. Martin, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Williams, and good evening, all others. You do have before you the January 2012 financial report. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have. However, there are a couple of items I would like to bring to your attention. If you look at page 1 of the report, the local sales and use tax, I do want to advise council that the actual showing of $647,351 represents actual 5 months of sales tax revenue. I did want you to look at a January report and see that the figures actually fall way behind. So if you take into consideration what we actually have collected through February, The actual mid-year collection for sales and use tax is actually $817,000, which is about 50% of budget as of December. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, since it was only showing about 40% collected at your January report. There's a few other line items that's shown here that also represents the fact that some of our revenue falls behind. In other words, they are 5 months into the year as opposed to the actual 7 months into the fiscal year. And those, for an example, would be the communication taxes. If you look at the communication tax, you will see that the actual collection shows about $227,000, which only is about 39%. And that's one of those revenues, as I stated, that do fall behind. So when we look at our actual December collections, we've collected an additional $38,000. So I can tell you that at mid-year with our communication taxes, we're about 48% collected. Okay. Also, with the personal property taxes current, I do want to advise you that on your report, you see actual, percent collected there shows a lot less than what actually has been collected. And this is due to the fact that the budget for fiscal year 2011 includes the budget amount for the personal property tax relief. I went ahead and I took that out, and that amount actual is $1.2 million. So when you add what has actually been collected at January 31st, 2011, that is the $1,084,000 that you see here. So the actual collection is 90.3% versus the 87.9% that you're showing in the current fiscal year. Okay. So those are 3 items that I want to bring to your attention immediately, and you may have some other questions, but those are 3 large variances that I noted that I want to share with you, the reasons why those variances existed.
Are the rest of the meals taxes a similar situation?
The meals taxes?
You have a 2 beside that.
Right, okay. Yes, the meals taxes,
And lodging?
yes, the meals and the lodging taxes, some of the same scenario applies. For the meals taxes, $611,916 that you show there. When you take in that amount is actually 6 months of revenue and not 7. I do not have what was actually collected in that 7th month, but that's the same for the meals taxes and also for the lodging taxes. Those amounts represent actual collections through December 31st and not January 31st.
It looks like we're really close to being halfway there.
We're close to being halfway there.
Any other questions?
Without going into a real long accounting discussion, is there a way that you can estimate where that is and accrue those couple months behind and then reverse them when we get our numbers so we really see more accurate numbers, or do you not have that information available to you?
Well, I think what we did was actually in the prior year, Councilman Burgess, we did go back and we make the adjustments in the prior year. I think what we want to try to do is keep one set of books, and if we try to do that, we'll be actually keeping 2 sets, one for just reporting purposes, and that's why hopefully when I do the financial reports, hopefully I can provide, and if I need to provide a better explanation, I can do that. But hopefully I can be able to explain out why our variances exist. But if we go back and try to make the adjustments to kind of accrue things back, it will almost be like trying to keep 2 sets of accounting records, and we want to try to keep the 1 set in accordance with our audit report.
By the end of the year, aren't you going to accrue aren't you going to have to go back and accrue those numbers anyway?
Yeah, we will have to go back and accrue them, but again, if we do that, we will still have to go back and make those adjustments as well, because our audit is going to actually want us to show actual receipts for all those 12 months, as opposed to... Okay.
Excuse me, Councilman Burgess.
Go ahead.
For our people in the audience that may be viewing us on TV, could you tell them what accrue means? Because I don't want to lose the citizens.
Now you're going to really test me. Accrual is when you make an estimate and you make a book entry of what you expect to receive.
Okay.
And then you can reverse it when you actually get your number, you reverse it and put the actual number in.
That's receive or pay.
Yeah.
But I think it's very helpful when you can tell us, especially mid-year,
Yeah.
what the mid-year number is, and we can look and see that it's about 50%.
Right.
So that gives us some confidence that we're on schedule.
Absolutely. And because we're reporting in December, is technically our mid-year, there's all going to be those revenues to do lag behind. So by the time you get up to March, some of them you're looking at an actual 6 months. So sometimes you're not really trying to compare the apples to apples in terms of your reporting period. But hopefully we can do the best we can to provide some explanations within the financial report to sort of kind of explain those things out.
And for the most part, except for one or two line items, the budget for the current versus percentage of budget for the prior, to me, is very telling. More than anything, as to
Very
where
close
we
to
are
last
compared to last year. Right.
So
So 2 or 3 lines.
the only thing we don't see though is, okay, we were even with last year, but unless we go back and look, we don't know how we finished up for the year. So if we were short last year, all we're doing is comparing to the fact that we're going to be short this year, and I was just trying to...
True, except the budget was probably somewhat based on last year as a starting point.
Yep. But we're fine.
But your update, kind of brings it into full fold.
It does.
Yes, I hope so.
If you update that. Thanks, very nice.
And if I may add just one other thing, when we do our March financial report, hopefully at that time, we'll be able to have an estimated actual of what we expect to have throughout the end of the fiscal year. We certainly need that for budgetary purposes, and I think that will allow council to have a better overview of exactly where we will end up being at the end of the fiscal year. So at the end of March, we're certainly trying to get those year-to-date projections together for council.
Any other comments on the budget? Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I have one big question.
Sure.
What has happened to our cash in the electric fund?
Our taxes in the...
Cash.
Oh, our cash in the electric fund.
We had $1.7 million, and we're down to 600. I thought we were building the electric fund.
Okay, let's see if I can...
Have we had a major expenditure in the electric fund that's, because we show a profit, but, I know there are other things that affect cash beside profit.
Mhm.
Benny, what page would that be on?
Page 7, I'm sorry.
Yes, and these pages are, again, not numbered, but if you look at page 5, okay? Page 5, which is the revenues and expenditures of the electric fund, that may be able to provide you a little bit more detail as to what's actually showing in your cash. I'm going to look at it just a little here, but Mr. Bly is here. He may be able to shed some light as to exactly what's going on, detailed expenditure and revenue-wise with the electric fund. However, if you look at numbers from January 31st, 2011, you will actually see that there is a drop in operating income. At January 31st, 2011, you had $1.9 million versus at January 31st, 2012, you had $1.5 million. And you can see there because the expenditures actually increased, so that's also going to impact the amount of cash. And of course, we know that our expenditures for the electric fund increased because we're spending more for our purchase of energy.
But at the end of the day, we still have a profit, so you would expect your cash to go up unless we've had some major expenditures of equipment or supplies or something, inventoriable supplies or something like that, because basically if you take out all those kinds of things and just look at your net income, we've got $600,000 in the checking account, and we made $600,000. That means that June 30th, we started at zero.
No.
I don't know that you have that answer, so it's not a big deal. If you could just do a little research, maybe.
I can certainly do that. In
Just
other
shoot us
words,
an
we just,
email and-
a detail as to why we're showing such a drop in the cash in the electric fund at this particular period. Okay.
Right, and the net income is down 450 approximately, but the transfer to general fund, we of course knocked that down to the 150 like we do normally. We're trying to reduce that down every year by some, so that leaves us about the 350 that we're talking about, which still didn't equal what Mr. Burgess is talking about.
Right, absolutely. I think that was the fifth year, I think, that we had made a budgetary decision that we're going to reduce the electric fund. So I'm thinking that the $1.4 million that we're showing this particular year for that transfer, it may continue in the next budget cycle, but we can certainly take a look at that as well.
I guess the other thing, I hadn't really noticed it until we had this discussion, but our sale of energy is down 300,000, but our cost of energy is up 300,000. And we had an increase to try to mirror what Dominion was passing on to us. So I guess I'm a little concerned that we're not keeping pace. And I don't know, I mean, you don't store electricity, so it's not like it's in inventory someplace. I think we probably need to look and see where, do we have a hole, or we not billing, or we missed something that's kind of out of whack there, because I would expect those two to kind of mirror each other.
Also, just a quick comment, excuse my voice, but I was looking at last month's agenda, and I don't see where we had this cash balance report. So you probably could have caught it a little bit early on if we had it every month.
I believe we did have it. If I'm not mistaken, we did have the cash balance.
It's still on my iPad, and I just don't see it.
I don't know why it jumped out at me this time, but because I had seen the cash report in the past, but it really jumped out at me this time.
Well, we talked about
What
the
line
field
item are you
adjustment
looking at
last
now?
time, about it being evidently one behind the other. We talked about that the last time we had the financial statements presented.
Absolutely.
And we thought it was a timing difference, but it's still a $300,000 difference,
Right.
that I agree with.
Okay.
And if you look at last year, it was a little bit over 1,000 more costs than income.
What'd you say, Mr. Mayor? What did you ask?
I'm seeing it now. I got to page 7. I see where you're talking,
I'm sorry.
or with a question.
And I would certainly check and see whether or not you did not have that cash balance report for December 2012, and I'll make sure you get it, but I do believe that was within your December financial report.
Yeah, there's some inconsistency there. I mean, the numbers that you were talking about just a minute ago, Barry and Benny, is, you've got higher expenses on the resale, and that would account for the $300,000 or $400,000 that we're looking at, but the 600 you're talking about, I don't know either. Could you get back to us on that?
I certainly can do
Yeah.
that.
I was going to
Absolutely.
say, opposed to sending us an email on it, could you prepare that for us for the next council meeting, where you can present it with the line items that are in question and along with an explanation, so that we can allow the citizens to hear it at the same time?
Absolutely. I believe that's
Thank
what
you.
I've done before with the one or two other financial reports. I
Yes,
can
you
make
have.
sure I do that for you,
Thank you.
Councilman.
You have.
Any other questions? Thanks, Ms. Rollins.
You're surely welcome.
Next is our treasurer's report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Vice Mayor Johnson, members of council, City Manager Mr. Martin, and City Attorney Taylor Williams. I bring before you the collections report for the period of September 16th to February 21st. I think your report was left out when it was scanned to send to your iPad. So I think you each have a page to look at, showing what the real estate is delinquent, as well as personal property, business license, and mills tax. Do y'all have that in front of you? Okay, great. The total real estate delinquent at this point, as of February 17th, is $440,084.94. Personal property is $577,830.30. Business license is $10,803.38. Meals and lodging is $82,127.04. That brings a total of $1,110,845.66. That also includes the December 5th real estate and personal property billing. So that's why those numbers have jumped a little bit since the last reporting. In my report where I wrote out the collections report, I apologize, there is the date errors in there. It is not September 16, 2012. It was September. I apologize for that. I didn't know if y'all had time to read that instead of me going through everything. If I will entertain any questions that you have on any of that I've written out to you.
I have a question.
Mr. McLemore?
Yes, meals tax is a fiduciary tax, correct?
Correct.
And for the citizens, that means that when they pay their meal, the restaurant or whatever is supposed to set that money aside as not part of their operating money. Okay? So since it's a fiduciary tax, what is our justification for supporting delinquencies in the meals tax?
If you will remember past when I took over the office, most of these that are on the delinquent list were already on the delinquent list. The ones that are still in business currently, I have met with each one of those and are working a payment plan with them. They are not delinquent currently. They are right now, they have worked on that delinquency. Because they were allowed to become delinquent in the past, you know, if they had the money, they'd probably come in and pay it. So I am working with those area businesses, trying to get them to where they are back up to date. You know, in the past, it is explained to them that it is a trust, it is held in trust, it is, you know, it's against the law. They have used money that is not theirs to use. But due to the fact that this happened prior to me coming on board as the treasurer, I have worked out payment plans with them, and they are, most of them that are on there that have made payment plans with me, they are abiding by that. The payment plan is that they are making monthly, some of them are even making weekly payments towards the delinquencies that were on the books prior, but their rule is that they have to file currently and pay now. They're not allowed to file and not pay. So I'm looking to where that will mirror them and get them to where they're all on time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I could, Councilman McLemore, also, you may remember the name Samina Azar.
Right.
She owes the city over $40,000. If you recall, she was convicted of some criminal charges involving failure to pay the meal tax. The court imposed a jail sentence but suspended it on the condition that she abide by a repayment plan. She made a few payments and now she's disappeared to somewhere in Texas. There is a capias outstanding, so that if she ever comes to the knowledge of the police anywhere in the United States and they do a record check to see if there are any outstanding warrants, she'll be picked up and she'll be brought back to Franklin, and the court hopefully will impose the jail sentence that was suspended on the condition that she paid the delinquent meal tax, but her meal tax owed to the city is over $40,000.
So that is the 50% of that 82,000 delinquent that we have?
Right at it.
That is right. Correct. There are, not just Circle, there are 4 businesses that have left town, and we have, you know, done our due diligence to try to find them. We actually look through records and internets and, you know, on a month-to-month basis, trying to see if anything pops up on those that we can capture. And the rest, like I said, I think in my reporting, I think I've got 4 on payment plans. There's a couple of them in here, the smaller ones, meals tax, that was late filing. They'll pick that up when they make their payments for the next month. If you file late and you send your report in and you don't add your late filing, they are assessed a late filing fee. The Commissioner of the Revenue's office sends that bill back out to them, letting them know, that there was a late filing, and usually that's picked up. So there's about 4 of those on there, those smaller ones.
And what prompted my concern is I've had some citizens and constituents question me because they might have problems with some of their taxes. And in layman's terms, they say, they're coming after me about $300, but you got people out there owing thousands of dollars in taxes and they ain't bothering them. I really can't give them a precise answer why that is, as far as how we structure our pursuit of generating or collecting those revenues. And can I assure them that all of the people that owe meal taxes, with the exception of somebody such as the lady who has left town from Burger King, that all of these businesses are paying their current taxes as well as something towards their old tax to bring them down?
I can guarantee you that that is correct. I am making sure that they are paying those.
Thank you.
If they miss a payment, they get a phone call or a visit.
Okay.
And that's the same with the folks that owe real estate tax that have businesses in town. You set up something with
Yes,
most of
sir.
it, not all
Yes,
of them,
sir.
right?
A lot of it, if it's real estate, mills tax, we kind of group it together, but we're right now focusing on the ones that are most detrimental to them, try to get them caught back up. But yes, rest assured that if I'm going after people with real estate and personal property, anybody on mills tax and any other taxes, I have made contact with them also.
And also, I believe that I had requested, and I don't think I received it, some sort of breakdown regarding to the company VAC as far as what they were making off of our citizens versus how much we were collecting.
That is
type
in the
thing.
report. It is 20%. No matter what we collect, it is 20%, as I said the last time. So if I tell you the dollar amount of what we collected, it is 20%. No more, no less. They get 20% of the dollar amount that I collect.
Okay, I understand that, but what I don't understand or would like clarification upon is if a citizen owes $300 in tax, and subsequently because of that, and you tried to contact them, they haven't come in to make arrangements, and they're turned over to VAC. VAC can collect $200 for just towing their car. Is that accurate?
As I explained to you, I have nothing to do with any of the towing fees or any of those charges. I am only in charge with VAC of collecting. They boot the vehicle. They pay my taxes, and then 20% of that go.
Of tax?
Any tax or any fees that have occurred versus other fees that may occur with that delinquent bill. Anything that they pay, they get 20% of that bill.
So in a realistic state, it can be cases where VAC will actually collect more money from a citizen by the time they collect their towing fees and things like that, along with the taxes for us. The VAC can actually end up collecting more bottom line money from the citizen than we will end up collecting from them for the delinquent tax.
They pay another company to tow, so they have to pay that company to tow for them, and then they have a storage. That is between VAC and the citizen. If they get towed, and as I explained in the previous reporting, we do everything in our power to get the citizens in. We write letters to them. We make payment plans to them. But if they do not come in and make a payment plan with us or to work with us, and yes, they get booted by any chance, we still give them till 5 o'clock that day to come in.
I understand all that. All I'm asking, and I think is if you guys don't understand, then maybe I'm asking it wrong, but I want to say that are there cases where VAC can literally end up collecting more money from our citizen as a result of their delinquent taxes, then we. Is that the
VAC can
case?
only collect 20% of the tax. If they incur charges to towing or storage, they do have the right to collect that. Yes, that, if you add all of that together, then that could cost that citizen more money, but it is not money that VAC gets to keep. It is money that they have to pay out. And VAC sends it, they can even send it to the tow company to pay. They are, from what I'm understanding, they are working with the citizens instead of having them go A, B, C, D. They have made arrangements to, collect the money and then disperse it to the tow company. But they can't collect any more than the 20%. But if there's charges that are incurred for towing and storage, then yes, the citizen has to pay the towing and the storage.
So ultimately, the answer to my question is yes. There
Yes.
are cases when VAC will make more money from the citizen than we will collect.
You're missing understanding. It's not make money. They're only making the 20% off
No.
the citizen, but they are having to collect what is being charged to tow that vehicle to the location for storage.
Mr. Mayor, could I make a point?
Yes.
We don't handle VAC's money, so we have no way of knowing how much is being paid to VAC. That's the simple
I
fact.
understand, but my concern is the citizens.
I understand
So
your
they're-
concern, but we have no way of knowing what is being paid by the citizen because that is between VAC and the citizen.
But this,
Only he's not involved in that.
the only reason the citizen is involved with VAC is because we have given this, VAC permission to deal with our citizens. Our citizens have no choice but deal with VAC if they're delinquent. So what I am concerned with, if a citizen owes us $200 for taxes, and they end up with their car getting towed, they end up paying not only their $200 they owed us for tax, but VAC can possibly get $200 for towing them plus the 20%, which is another $20, so they end up paying $400 for owing us $200.
We
So the
we don't have
citizen
any way
is-
of knowing that.
And I didn't ask you a legal question, sir. I was asking, are there times
Mr.
when...
McNamara, I think she's asked to answer that 3 times.
Yeah, and
Answer
she
that is yes.
finally said yes, but they continue to
But
try to explain why it's not.
It could cost the individual more if he doesn't pay his tax on time.
But the cost is
Bottom
not...
line.
But can VAC make more money off of our citizens?
No.
They get 20%
They get
of what they
20%.
charge us. VAC doesn't make anything on the towing, doesn't make anything on the storage. That's contracted service.
Much like your concept of the restaurant tax, it's the same thing. They are contracted with somebody else. They are collecting that money to give them to somebody else. It's not theirs to begin with.
I understand the
They're not making any money off of that. They're making 20%, and that's only after repeated times of trying to get them to come in and deal with Ms. Babb. Only after that.
I mean, you can scramble the egg many ways. All I'm saying is the
We've answered the
citizen.
question. It could cost you more if you don't pay your taxes on time. There are fees to get your car back.
So
End
then,
of conversation.
why are we sicking people?
Back to the floor.
We're not sticking anybody.
He wants the floor. I'm sorry.
Mr. Bly?
Ms. Babb, I'm gonna go on another, area here.
Correct.
Fans on Main Street had that business, then they had a pay size as a bed and breakfast. I might have asked this question before, but he left the city owing on both businesses, real estate tax, I think, equipment tax also, but he's moved to Carolina. Do we just write this off, or do we,
Nothing has been written off.
yeah, but how do we collect that?
He's making a payment plan with me, and he is
Is he?
sticking to that very,
Okay, good. Okay.
very consistent. He has not missed a payment since he's left the area, and we did not lose money on the real estate property. The real estate property was picked up back by the bank who owns it. So no money has been lost on that company. Matter of fact, he even paid his delinquent utility bills. He's very accurate on his payments. He calls me. If he's due on a certain day, he may not get here that day. He calls me and says, I'll be here the next day. So he's very good about making his payments on that time.
Thank you.
Okay?
Question, and if hypothetically he didn't, what would be the recourse?
Well, I could go after him legally because right now it is a fiduciary account, but I'm not
But you
planning on
wouldn't-
having to do that
you
because
wouldn't
he is
take-
making,
You have no procedures to take
Yeah.
anything
We could go- we
like
could-
taking a car.
no, sir, not on a mills tax.
But we still add on interest to this money, right?
Mills tax, there is only a penalty. There's no
Yeah,
interest
I mean,
on that.
on real estate and personal property.
He's satisfied on all that.
What I mean is, if we owe money, we still have a penalty as far as
Let me make
tax-
sure I understand your-
interest on it, right?
Your question is
All
on
right,
who, on
it's a-
any citizen or
Businesses.
businesses, personal property? Yes, there's interest and penalties added to personal property.
How about real estate?
There is on real estate, personal property, but there is no penalty. There's a penalty for late filing on mills tax, but there's no interest added to that.
Like,
Because that is not supposed to be an account that's carried forward.
Mr. Mayor, since you chimed in on my question, let me ask you this, because I have to talk to citizens, and you have many more years' experience at this. How do I explain to them that there are people who owe thousands of dollars to the city, and they basically don't have things that are seeable happen to them? But yet, if I owe a couple $100 to the city, I could possibly lose my car.
I think the thing for you to go back and tell them is that every citizen is being treated equally
Okay,
and fairly.
okay,
And what they see on paper may not show up.
okay,
You don't know how many people have agreements,
okay.
but they're noted here, many people who are under a payment plan. And they could be under a payment plan too. The
Right.
policy is applied fairly across the board.
Right, the other ones went and made arrangements, and that's what she's been telling us.
Yeah, but if you
Ms.
owe,
Babb, I like to say this, I said it before, but I think you've done a good job with this.
Thank you, sir.
Collected a lot of money for the city.
and
Thank you.
as I've may seem to be questioning this, I'd like to commend you also. I don't know if it is a result of the use of the booting of cars that has brought us up, or whatever has brought us up. I'd like to commend you for collecting revenues on our behalf.
Thank you, sir.
And I'd just like to say thank you for the fine report that you have in concerning Booton and all of that information that's sent out.
Okay,
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Babb.
thank you, sir.
All right. Let's see, after collections, zoning ordinance amendments for collections of real estate tax? She's back.
Zoning ordinance for collection?
She forgot. That's just the next item.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
On the B.
I apologize, y'all said I was done, I'm sorry. Let me get to that. This is really for information only. This is something that I have kind of heard through talking to other localities that they utilize this. It is in the Code of Virginia. I have cut this out and pasted it on the code statute 15.2.2286, 15B. And basically, just bottom line is if somebody comes in to do anything zoning, building permits, or any type of something to a property, even if they get a use change permit or anything like that, they're going to have to make sure that all of their taxes are paid. They will not be able to go forward with any building permit until all taxes on the property that they will be doing something with are satisfied. So if a customer comes in, goes up to community development to get a building permit, they will have to have a statement from the treasurer's office stating that all taxes are satisfied. If they're not satisfied, they will not be allowed to get their building, zoning, or use change agreement. This is working in a lot of other localities, but it has to be, it has to go before the zoning and for them to update it. So I've been working with Donald, and I will be presenting this to the Planning Commission to have this added to the zoning ordinance. I just wanted to give this to you as another tool that I would like to utilize in the future.
Is this something that has to be added to ours, or is it a state code that has already existed?
The state code allows the city to adopt this as a collection
Okay.
tool,
Okay.
and so it would,
Comes for us in the form of an adopted,
not necessarily.
Amendment to the zoning enforcement regulations.
It'll have to go before them, it'll have to have a public hearing when they have their ordinance changes, and this will be as one of the ordinance changes that I'm asking Donald to add
It'll
to
come
one
from
of his changes.
come from the planning commission in a recommendation, and public hearing would be necessary.
And then
and
it'll
has
come
that
back
been
to you.
requested by him, to him yet?
I have already, Donald and I are in conversation about this, so it's going to be added. I just wanted to bring it to you for you to have knowledge that this is something that we want to do, to have as another additional tool.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm certainly in support of trying to not let people continue to go on if they owe us money, but at the same time, I don't know what the percentage is, but we probably only have, 5 or 10% of the people. Is there a way we can turn it around and we don't make everybody go through the process? We try to screen out and have a way to identify those that owe money without everybody having, I don't know how you would do that, but let's don't affect the 95, let's get the 5.
That's fine. Donald and I did talk about that to make it something that does flow good, that it's not penalizing someone that we know is taxes, even if they pick up a phone and call and says, is everything good, and I say yes. We will work those logistics, try to make it not horrendous on the citizens. We want to make it go fine, but yet we don't want anything to jeopardize the collection part of it.
Yeah, if I could comment, I think we'd want to streamline it and not impact the building permitting and so forth unnecessarily. It would be a fairly simple, I think, financial check to make sure that that's been paid.
If that's all done internally and I, as a person,
Oh, yeah.
citizen coming in, that's not an issue.
There you go.
Let me understand this, Ms. Babb. Perfect case. Councilman Bly brought up fins. So maybe I'm misunderstanding, but from what I understand you to say, if someone else comes there and wants to utilize that building for a business, that they would have to make sure that any taxes at that location were paid. So if you wanted to put another tenant in there that was ready to rent that building and start a business, but they were on a limited budget, they could not occupy that building unless they were willing to pay off the taxes that Finn previously owed on that building.
Depends on who owns the building. It doesn't say who is in it last. It's the owner of the building, not the last tenant. I'll use myself as an example, okay? It might make it a little bit clearer. I have property taxes that are, and I want to repair my porch. And I have to get a building permit from community development. They will check with me to make sure my taxes are current.
So I
Before
can't
they're going to
repair.
give me a building permit to do
So
my
I
report.
can't get a permit to fix my porch as long as I owe taxes.
Correct.
But if I were to want to rent fins tomorrow, there would be no provision as you've discussed. It wouldn't affect me from being able to open up shop in that, even though a
We would be
previous
working with
occupant owed taxes at that facility.
We would be working with the person. The person who owned the previous, unless he owns the building, he's not going to have the taxes. It's the person who owns the actual building that would be the problem. So, but there are some logistics that we need to work out, but it's mainly just to make sure that the taxes are paid prior to the building permits getting.
I understand that the concept, but I just don't want something to be put in place that is going to prevent new businesses from going into business because of a tax debt that is owed by someone else. That's my only concern.
Mr. Mayor,
I think he
I'm
has
confused.
to.
I'm confused. Let's don't use a name. I own a building downtown.
Right.
I have a business in it. And the business, let's just say it's a restaurant, so we get the meals tax, because that's the one that everybody's probably most concerned with. It has meals tax. And they get delinquent. And they end up closing, and you're working with them to get it paid. As an owner of a building, if I put somebody new in there, I am not prohibited from putting somebody new in there. That problem is between the city and whoever was in there previously.
Correct.
You are
As an
correct.
owner of a building, I would be free to do what I need to do with my building.
And it's not all taxes, it's only the real estate taxes that it would be affected.
Okay.
It's only the real
So that would stay with the building.
But
Correct.
if you owed
That's what I'm
real
trying to
estate tax on your building, you couldn't re-rent it
Couldn't re-rent it.
until you made good on your taxes.
Well, you probably could re-rent
You
it,
could
you
rent
just
it.
couldn't make an improvement that
Right.
would require you to get a building permit.
There you
Anything
go.
that required an occupancy permit or something.
Correct. It has nothing to do but with real estate taxes.
Okay.
Any other
Is that clear?
questions?
Can you expand that?
Can we? I don't think that state code allows it to be expanded. Sorry.
They really target what they want.
There you go.
We'll take
Any
what we
other
get.
questions concerning that? Apologize for forgetting.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I just like to say I'm concerned, particularly the time when we are trying to increase businesses here. And just like the scenario that you gave, Mr. Councilman Burgess, you owe some business, you owe some taxes, but you feel, excuse me?
Meals.
Meals.
No.
Well,
Real
see, that's what I'm saying.
Real estate.
We got two different things.
Has to be real estate.
You think I'm talking about meals tax, they were talking about real estate tax. And I'm trying to understand how it is going to affect that layperson that comes and says, I want to open a blank, blank, blank in Franklin. But the place that they want to open it at has tax issues. Will it prevent that person from saying, that's the location I want, it's a great place, I can really make a lot of money there, but then they can't open that business there because that landlord or the previous tenant had tax issues. That's
Doesn't
my
have anything to do
own
with the
concern.
previous tenant, only the landlord.
It only affects the landlord.
Landowner.
The landlord, right, the person who owns the property. Now, if you own that property, and that's to say that if you feel as though the reason you haven't been able to make the money that you need to generate to pay your taxes is because I don't have a salad bar, and I want to build in a salad bar, put a salad bar in, and then I can make more money, and then I can afford to pay taxes. You cannot do that if you need to get a permit in order to do whatever it is, whether it's hook up plumbing, or put a sign, anything to increase your business that you need a permit for. You're unable to try to help your own business because you've managed to get behind on the tax. When if you are allowed to do what you need to do while you're paying your tax, you can possibly, so your business can survive. But it seems to me it kind of puts a hardship to pay off something old before you can do anything new.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I think one of the things, Councilman McMore, that you seem to fail to forget is all they require is that you go in and talk to the treasurer and make a plan. Then you can go on and do your salad bar, you don't have to come up with any money. But you cannot ignore the bill, and that's what we
I
have
agree.
going on.
I don't want nobody to ignore the bill, and
But that's all we're saying. So we're on the same page.
That's fine, but I did hear something saying about we would do it because you mentioned the 95% versus the 5%, and I would like to see that law or whatever be across the board so that any citizen who wanted to do what you said simply could go down and talk to make arrangements and know that they would be able to move forward. Not this one can go down, make arrangements, and move forward, but then the next guy, he goes down there and he can't get that for whatever reason.
And that's not what I was talking about. The 95% of the people who paid their real estate taxes on time, they're not delinquent at all. Why should they have to go to the treasurer's office to find out that they paid their taxes on time? We already know that they did. We collected the money and we see it in our report. Why do you want to make those do
And
that?
I don't want to make nobody do nothing.
And I think the city manager was saying it would just be a checkoff.
Should be a checkoff.
And somebody makes a phone call to their tax concern, and if they are, you get a check, and you just move on.
That's fine.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just one quick comment. It's good discussion. These are good questions. When the evaluation process is done, before it goes to public hearing, we'll have answers to them. And so this is giving us the kind of debate and discussion early on that we need to feel it out, and we'll certainly be checking with other municipalities that are already doing this, see how they address the concerns that you've raised, and so we'll have answers.
Thank you.
May I ask a
You may.
question? I got a little confused during the discussion. Now, if the building owner has paid taxes on time, but the tenant did not pay taxes, then if someone new comes in, that doesn't affect them at all? Okay.
Only the
Thank you.
landowner.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're still stuck if you're the tenant and owner, you still, that's
Yeah,
a separate.
we'll use every other method available legal to collect those past tenant taxes, but that would not affect the issuance of a
New
permit.
tenant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is, I'll call it my name as soon as I can get it back on here. The report from the city attorney on the charter change.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I gave a memorandum which indicated that we were last in the House before the Subcommittee Number 1 on Counties, Cities, and Towns to consider Senate Bill 311. And in the discussion before the subcommittee, basically there were 6 amendments, some coming from the city, some coming from other sources, but there were 6 amendments considered by the House subcommittee. One issue seemed to bog down some of the subcommittee members. That was what I considered to be a new issue. You may recall one of our suggested charter amendments deals with a recall provision. In the recall provision, you would, if the recall voted yes for the recall, then there would be an election for a successor. The members of the subcommittee seemed to take issue with the fact that the person subject to the recall could not run in the successor election. So there was a great deal of debate. As a result of the debate, the resolution came forward, and so the matter was continued until the next subcommittee meeting. The next subcommittee meeting is scheduled for this Wednesday. I sent an email out today stating that the subcommittee meeting was going to be on Wednesday, March the 1st. That was an error. It's actually February the 29th. There are 29 days in February instead of 28. And so the subcommittee will meet again this coming Wednesday, trying to get it in March, February the 29th. And I think the primary issue is going to be whether or not council has resolved the matter to the satisfaction of the subcommittee members, dealing with whether or not the person subject to the recall can be on the successor ballot. My review of all the charters in the state that have recall provisions reveal that there are only 4 recall provisions in the state. 3 of those recall provisions are in the cities of Lynchburg, Hampton, and Norfolk. Their recall provisions up to the point of making a ballot for the actual recall election, where you vote yes or no, pretty much mirror what our proposed charter amendment is. If there is a majority vote in favor of the recall provision, those 3 communities simply say, we'll have a vacancy and the council will appoint someone to be the successor according to the provisions that already exist in the charter. Portsmouth is the 4th city in the state that has a recall provision. Our proposed recall provision was modeled after the Portsmouth. What Portsmouth does is have a vote for the recall, yes or no. If the majority votes yes for the recall, then there is a successor election. Portsmouth's successor election does not allow the recall candidate to participate in the successor election. That's how we modeled our ordinance. From what I can learn, Portsmouth's model was adopted, went through the General Assembly and was adopted by the General Assembly last year. I think the citizens that brought forward the proposed charter amendment felt like modeling after Portsmouth was a better way to keep the citizens involved, because then they would be making the successor choice. It is the opinion of some members on the House subcommittee that failure to include the person subject to the recall on the successor ballot has some constitutional implications. Personally, I don't see it. The lawyers that participated in crafting our proposal didn't see a charter conflict, a constitutional conflict. The lawyers in the Legislative Assembly that reviewed these bills have never pulled out a constitutional conflict. They didn't raise the issue last year when Portsmouth's bill went through. They didn't raise it this year in the Senate discussion. The same lawyer sat in on the Senate discussion that sat in on the House discussion. When asked about it, the Legislative Services lawyer said he couldn't answer the constitutional question. He thought it would make an interesting discussion before a judge, but he had no way of knowing whether it was constitutional or unconstitutional. Putting all that aside, trying to find a way to get the recall provision to go through, I am recommending to you that we change the language to our proposed charter amendment, and that we follow the model used by Hampton, Lynchburg, and Portsmouth. And so I have placed at your seats a resolution, and in the resolution I have only dealt with the issue related to the recall election. What you see before you, basically in red, is the language that was the Senate Bill 311. And so the red language is what presently exists in front of the House subcommittee and what the House subcommittee is considering. Now, what I have changed, you can see is highlighted. So wherever you see the yellow highlight with a red line striking through the language, that is language that I'm suggesting to you we need to take out, because it takes away the successor election conflict. And I have inserted in black type what I think the corrections should be, so that we now model the language that is used in Hampton, Lynchburg, and Norfolk, which is to create a vacancy on the council, and then council goes to the charter. I gave you a copy of the city charter provision that deals with vacancies, so that you could read that and see that that language already exists in our charter, and you could look at that and determine for yourselves that allows the council to appoint someone to fill the vacant term. The basic change, what you really need to focus on, is on the last page. It's the paragraph that I have renumbered as G. And you can see the first sentence says, in any such election, if a majority of the votes cast on the question of removal be affirmative, then, and you see I've struck through the language and said, the council member or mayor whose removal is sought shall thereupon be deemed removed from office, or the office of mayor, upon the announcement of the official canvass of the election by the city electoral board, and the vacancy caused by such recall shall be filled by the remainder of council according to the provisions of section 3.02 of this charter. And that language mirrors Hampton, Lynchburg, and Portsmouth. So it eliminates the discussion about whether or not, I said Portsmouth, I'm sorry, Norfolk. So it eliminates, adopting this language in this resolution eliminates the controversy over whether Portsmouth's model is constitutional or not constitutional. And I forgot to mention one other fact. It is a fact that Portsmouth has already used its recall provision once before, and there was no constitutional challenge on the recall. And so that's where we are. I'm asking you, or I have given you the option of voting on this resolution, and if you agree that this resolution is a way to have the recall and eliminate this temporary roadblock, then I would suggest that a motion would be proper, and I will be happy to carry this resolution to Richmond Wednesday when I go. And that's my report.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move that we adopt resolution of the Franklin City Council as presented by the city attorney.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would, since I made the motion, I'd like to address it first, and that is, you know, there's so many forces at work up in Richmond besides just our charter. We've run into roadblock after roadblock. I don't know if this is going to be successful, but we're way down the road, and I say we move forward, run it out to the end, and see what happens. And I don't have any confidence that it'll pass, but not because we don't have good charter changes, and not because it's not good governance. It's just there are other factors that are involved, and outside of Franklin, not necessarily from inside Franklin. I say we run it to the end and see what happens.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a comment
Okay.
concerning this. Well, you know, from day one, the way this thing came back to the council, it was written by 6 or 7 constituents out here in the city of Franklin. It came before the city council to the General Assembly. I did ask for a referendum to be done to let all citizens have a chance to be heard and voice their vote in this. But I was denied that, and I did say that night that I would go to Richmond and oppose this because I felt like it should have gone on a referendum.
Okay.
I've been to Richmond. I've been up to Richmond 5 times. I've heard the House say this is unconstitutional, some of these amendments we were doing. And the other, I've also heard it's illegal. So my big question is, I feel like to unite our council when we have issues, like I asked Mr. Williams, no disrespect to you, Mr. Williams, last week at the General Assembly, who authorized him to write this, to make amendments and all that. He said he took it upon himself, then it came before council, we got it on the agenda, and then we had a discussion on Monday night, and we're back at Richmond. But I personally feel like as a council member, to be part of this council body, I felt like we should have had a called meeting and had Mr. Williams in the meeting, and we could all sit around the table and discuss this and work it out among us and come up with a good program that you know we could all agree on. But when you come up and you sort of divide the council and then come up to us, I'm talking about myself now, I think it's very, very personal because I do want to make a difference. I want to be fair to my colleagues here. And the thing is, I think that would make a stronger government for the city. And I can't understand why we keep pushing week after week after week just to get something. And I don't know what's really behind this. I will say this. One of the delegates on the House said, there's a dark cloud to the story that we aren't being told, I feel like. And that has rung a bell to me. And I got my own thoughts on this, but I really don't understand myself why we keep pushing this. We spend more time on the amendments to the charter than we have to take care of city business that we really need to be working on. And this is for 5 going on 6 weeks now, we're in the same ballpark. And I'm just not as supportive of it. The House last week wanted to table it until 2013. But one delegate spoke up and said, let's table it today and come back next Wednesday. So that's what we're doing here. So I just wanted my constituents and Sister Franklin know where I'm coming from with this. And I really don't know what the true, I got my thoughts on it, but I really don't know what the true reason is behind this that's been pushed so hard to get it.
Okay.
And so that's my comments.
Thank you very much. Let me clarify the point that you made about the tabling it to 2013. Delegate Servell spoke to us afterwards and said he did that because he did not know that there would be another meeting this session. And he didn't want to kill the bill, he wanted it to stay alive, so he thought that was the last meeting. And he didn't know until the chairman corrected him and said there would be one more meeting, and that's when he said he didn't object to not being tabled. But that was his objective. It wasn't to pass over the bill, it was to make sure it didn't die and would be carried over, because he didn't know there was another meeting this coming Wednesday.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the bill, this issue?
Yes, unless one of my colleagues want to go first.
Okay. Mr. McElroy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have made a statement from this dais previously that we should stop embarrassing ourselves by continuously going up to Richmond with unprepared charter amendments that weren't well thought out so that they could be passed reasonably. The reason, I spoke to the Senator Blevins, who presented it on the Senate side, and he said he had no idea that all that stuff was in there and it was going to be so confusing, or he wouldn't have presented it. That is to share with the citizens, again, it is an assembly line up there, like you manufacture cars. Bills come in, if nobody says anything, they pass through. When somebody brings up a red flag, that's when they start to look into it, and that's when they start to see if it cuts constitutional muster. The state of Virginia, through Richmond, granted us the right to be a city, and we have to hold ourselves accountable to the General Assembly and to the state. And they will not allow us to just run off half-cocked doing whatever we want to do if it is not constitutional. Now, one issue that we're going to be in the same place. I'd like to make a motion that we kill it again, because I feel confident that it's going to fail again. And I'm sorry that we have an attitude that we've come this far, let's go all the way. Why do we have to continue until, we're dead? It's a problem. One thing is the amendments that we set forth that were submitted to us by the citizens that you brought before us, their intentions were to give the citizens input in the recall so that they could select a successor. Well, under what Mr. Williams is sending us up there with this time, the citizens are taken completely out. So I would be prepared to argue that there's been no public hearing as to this charter amendment being put before our citizens for us to even send it to Richmond. The citizens have not approved a charter amendment that excludes their participation so that the council members can pick a replacement for someone who is recalled. That is very well to say, to use myself as an example, which, by the way, I am in wholeheart support of a recall provision, but one that's well thought out. With that said, my colleagues, if I were recalled, can turn around and reappoint my predecessor because they liked her without any input from the citizens in which she has to represent. And I don't think that was the intention of the original amendment that was suggested by Mr. Rainey and his group, or the amendment that was discussed at the public hearing. So therefore, the citizens aren't aware of this provision that Mr. Williams wants to submit to the General Assembly. And I would also argue that because it is in 3 of 39 cities in the state, or in the Commonwealth, the hearing committee is not going to hold a lot of power, behind, well, 3 cities have it. Because those 3 cities have it doesn't mean it's necessarily the right thing for this city. And once they are aware that there has been no citizen hearing or public hearing held on this, I believe that once again, they're going to deny it, which only leaves us in a position of, instead of us backing away with dignity and saying, we'll work this out ourselves, thank you very much, but we'll come back before you when we are unanimously decided, we're going to try and push it through, just to push it. We've gone this far, let's push it. All we're going to do is go up there and once again have Franklin look like they're bringing up charter changes that are not going to cut the mustard of their enrichment. So I would contend that we don't put ourselves in that position by forwarding this motion to the General Assembly, and we work on coming up with a recall provision if we need to do a workshop as a council to discuss something so that we are all on the same sheet of paper in conjunction with what our citizens want. So I would ask that if you are not willing to cancel it, going up there, then I think we risk another week. And as Councilman Bly said, our city needs jobs. Our city has problems, and we're spending all this time and energy fighting charter changes that it takes Richmond to step in and tell us you can't do that. And I don't think, we're all mature adults up here, I don't think we should have to subject the city as a whole or our citizens to any more of this humiliation, which is sure to come because we are not going to get the provisions that this council has asked for because of legitimate reasons.
Thank you. Any other comments by anybody else?
Well, I do think the citizens still have input in that they do not want a particular person as either mayor or as city councilman by starting the petitions, going through the petitions, taking it to the court and taking it to that point. I do wish that we would have the ability to have it voted for the successor. However, the citizens, much like I guess the school board, would be making the presentations. We wouldn't just pick somebody out of the air. They would make the nominations of who they would like to see back in the city councilman's seat, whoever got taken out. So I think there would be citizen input here, maybe not to the degree that our original one was. I think Mr. Burgess made the point that there are other things in play up there. They say it's a dark side here, it could be a dark side up there as well. So I really think that we need to go ahead and move on. This one here seems to be what they were looking for, not to have the election at that time, but to have the appointment put in like the other ones.
Thank you. Any
Mr.
other
Mayor,
comment?
You
No.
might want to, I want to share something that nobody has said.
We've only had 5 minutes on the discussion. That's our rule.
Well, didn't we have a rebuttal?
No.
No
Anybody
problem.
else want to speak?
I would,
Please, Ms.
if I can get it out. I am right now, the only representative that has filled an unexpired term. Council has the authority to make the replacement, but council volunteered to go out to the ward and find out what the ward wanted. So the citizens did have participation in filling a seat that had an unexpired term, and that was Vice Mayor Robert Harrell's term. He passed. Number 2, it does take 125 registered voters to do a petition to have us placed on the ballot for mayor. And I think it's fair that we have 125 registered voters that would have a recall on a mayor and 10% of the individual ward. So I don't see that as an unfair resolution.
Thank you. Ms. Hayes? You have any comment?
I would like to say that there is a provision in the charter, as Vice Mayor Johnson has said, for filling a vacancy on council. The citizens had input before, and as Attorney Williams has stated, there are some citizens that want to see a recall provision in place as soon as possible. So that's why I'm supporting it. There are some citizens out there and I can represent those citizens.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
And aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
I need to ask one other question, Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
could. I know that on one occasion, everybody on council went to Richmond and appeared. I have not done a notice. I just found out today that the meeting before the subcommittee was on Wednesday. If more than two are going, I would like to do a notice once again that there would be a called meeting so that we are complying with provisions of the law. So if you intend to go, would you please contact me first thing in the morning so that I can get a notice out if there's going to be more than two people going. That's what the law requires.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll tell you now, I will not be there.
Nor will I.
I don't think I can go.
I will be there.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Okay.
So
So that's three.
I just need to ask,
Well, that's three.
that way you're right. I'll do the notice.
Okay. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a report on the new pumper truck. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, City Attorney. I'm here this evening on behalf of Chief Holt, myself, the career staff, and the volunteer members of the Fire and Rescue Department. First off, to thank you. Second, to update you and to let you know where we stand on the purchase of our new truck. As you can remember, approximately 10 and a half months ago, we were before you requesting funding to purchase a new pumper truck to replace one that was 31 years old. We were successful in doing that. I am happy to report to you on February the 20th, the truck arrived in Franklin. We are working as we speak of moving equipment off of the old engine and placing it on the new engine and getting it ready for service. And our projected date is March the 10th to have the truck in service. And as you can remember, when we came to you originally, we thought this truck was going to cost $450,000. And that was the preliminary figures that we were getting. Through the bidding process and negotiations and some items that we scaled back on the truck, I am very pleased to let you know tonight that the truck costs the City of Franklin $344,473.18.
Wow, that's $100,000 difference.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, and thank you.
Keep the good work up.
Very good.
Good. I know you don't have a ribbon cutting for a truck, but do you get a bottle of champagne and break it over the bumper or anything?
No, sir, I hope not.
You gonna get that thing?
We don't allow any alcohol in the fire station, and I don't think it would be appropriate in public.
How about shooting the water hose off or something?
We probably could do that.
Thank you, Chief. All right, the next item is the mayor's report. The main thing I wanted to bring to you all was something that still is very embryonic. I don't have as complete a report for you as I would like, but I wanted to make you aware. About 4 weeks ago, I was contacted by a group in Florida that produced the program Today in America. My suspicion is that we were on their marketing screen, but it's for small towns across the country to be able to tell their story. Terry Bradshaw is the host of the program, so I think it has validity. They basically want to do a 5-minute segment that will highlight Franklin, and then it will be shown once on Fox Business News nationally, and then 19 broadcasts on regional cable providers that they schedule. We choose them and they buy the time on them. There's a lot of information to that, I'm really not prepared to make even a recommendation at this point. I had asked Nancy Parrish and I'd asked Susan Duke to review the information they emailed me, just to say, is it a good thing or bad thing to pursue, before I even brought it to you, because it was so out of my league that I thought Susan Duke, being in the production business, could at least give me some technical evaluation of that. And then I had to go out of town last week, and we've not had that meeting. So what I would like to do, and with Mr. Williams's approval, is I will send the website to him, since we can't communicate by electronic media, and have him send you what they sent me, and give you a chance just to look through it, go to their website, go through all the little pages, and look at it yourselves. We don't have to make a decision now. They told me they wanted me to give them a decision 2 weeks ago. I couldn't bring it to you. I told them I'd let them know tomorrow. We can't do it. But if, with your permission, I'll just send you the information and just let you look at it.
Is that not the website that's in the,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I did include the the email in the agenda package.
Oh, good. Well, then
that's what I was going to ask.
Then that's it.
Yeah, you've been out of town, I hadn't had an opportunity to.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really just wanted to bring it to you to say, would you all just take a look, that's it, Don.
Okay.
You take a look at it and get your give me your feedback, or let's talk about it to see if, the 5-minute professionally done broadcast, we would then own. And we could put it on our website, we could use it for marketing, we could do whatever we wanted with it. There's a $19,000 price tag to it, and I don't know whether that's good value or not. I don't have any way to know that. And that's really why I asked Susan Duke to take a look at it, to say, is that, it's a lot of money. And trying to figure out, does that have any value? And I also asked Nancy Parrish to bring it up to economic development. Is that something that they'd want to partner in? Because of any, I don't know. So there's no recommendation at all, but just to bring it to you if you ought to take a look at. And I will just respond to him tomorrow that we haven't had a chance to give it due diligence and that we need another couple of weeks. And just take a look at it and see what you think and jot down your questions. What I haven't been able to take time to find is to Google it and go look at a sample of one of their programs, which I would like to see.
Would they give Franklin 5 minutes?
Yes. It'd be a 5-minute television broadcast.
On Franklin.
And if I understand it correctly, I'm not completely quite sure, it's like a half-hour program, and they feature 4, 5, or whatever that they can figure into some figure of time. But they do Fox News, Fox Business News, nationwide, and then you can read all that and see that. And I've gone through it once, and I'd go through it again myself. I don't know whether it has value or not. Part of me says we were on their marketing radar screen. The other part of me says that, because I asked them, I said, how'd y'all come up with us? Well, our research department looked around the country and we saw something going on in Franklin that we thought we'd like to talk about. And I don't know whether it was the mill closure, I don't know. So
my initial blush, it was that it was like the who's books of whatever profession.
Well, I wonder, yeah. But,
looks good on paper.
With every city in America.
Yeah, well, and
that was just my first blush, but I haven't looked deep at it.
I think for each program, they try to do something from each of the geographic areas around the country. They do one from the Northwest and the Southeast, and I just told him that we hadn't had a chance to consider it. So, Greg, you've had some experience in broadcasting, that kind of thing. Just take a critical look at it and see if it has any value.
Well, there's one thing I can share with you from the broadcast industry that any station can do is expose their audience to your product. They can't guarantee that consumers are going to buy that product.
Oh, sure.
So, as far as the coverage is concerned, you have to factor in the target audience, which is good. Fox Business News is a conservative station. And if you're trying to attract those people, which are older demographics that are conservative, upwardly mobile, that is a good target demographic to try and attract as citizens. It has its positive attributes, and it has its negatives. I haven't had time to really dissect it as far as what I think a negative would be. Any advertising is good advertising, but I am concerned with, wouldn't this be something that the FSEDI would pick up the tab on if we
I don't know.
were to go with it, because it is certainly marketing for economic development, I would think, or community development, some kind of bringing people here,
I
businesses.
mean, all those are good questions. And
So-
so if you all will just take some time in the next couple of weeks to look at it and then give me your critique,
What do you want to feedback on this?
just in the next council meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know it's one thing they don't tell us is what time is it nationally televised on Fox Business.
And I think those are questions
It
we
could be
can
at
ask.
3 o'clock in the afternoon. and
Yeah.
nobody's-
Yeah.
Or 3
I
in the
don't know.
morning.
Yeah, and I, what research I did, and I hadn't had an opportunity to do a lot since I've been here, but, they also do CNN regionally, and they have it on their website, which can be pulled up anytime, and they talk about the number of hits, but, as the mayor pointed out, I'd like to see an example of another community that's maybe participating in this. I can certainly see it in the private sector being a very valuable tool, but I guess I'm trying to look for the linkage to the public sector, since we are marketing a product, obviously, our community, but, you know, we're not selling widgets, so it's something I think we definitely want to look at.
Well, I think what would be helpful too is to ask the city manager if you can help close the loop on that, maybe contact a community that was featured.
Yeah, I thought I would do that.
And find out if there's any, would they benefit from it? Was it a benefit?
And I was going to also go through some of the network and see if there's any other municipalities that have been contacted. I'm not aware of it. I've never seen this before, but I certainly will do that.
I mean, this was just really out of the blue. The phone rang and there was some guy from Florida called.
Always wonder about that.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's one thing I wanted to report. And the other thing that I wanted to report to you is 2 weeks ago, we had a second meeting at the hospital with hospital staff and others concerning the clinic that the Western Tidewater and the Virginia Primary Care Association and all is considering for the city of Franklin to serve Lower Isle of Wight, Lower Southampton, and the city of Franklin in what they classify as an underserved area medically, with diabetes, teen pregnancy, and a variety of other things that qualify you for that. It doesn't mean that we have a shortage of doctors and nurses. It means we have a shortage of people getting the care that they need to stem high blood pressure, diabetes, and those kinds of things. This is going to be an ongoing thing, and I really would like some help on following through on the meetings that they're going to have. The OBC Foundation funded the study that the lady came about a year ago and told us that she was doing the research. We've gotten past that. It will end up being only when the federal government frees up some money for these kinds of additional clinics, like the Iowa Medical Center. But I would certainly like some help to either attend or with or in place of as these meetings occur. They're not frequent, and I don't even know when the next one's scheduled, sometime in March. But I think it would be helpful to have an additional council person get involved and ask the questions and represent us all.
I would like to attend that.
Okay? Is there anyone else? And then we'll make sure only 2 at a time go.
I was attending it in the past.
Okay.
Remember, when it first started, we were attending it,
Okay.
but that's fine.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't one or the other of us try to go and Greg go, and we'll just make sure only 2 of us go.
Okay.
And I'd be glad to do that. And I think they did schedule the next meeting. I'll have to go look, but I'll send that information to both of you and let you know when the next meeting is. It's moving, but very slowly. They're still in the evaluation stage. I can tell you that Iowa Medical Center does not have the time or the capacity to help us with that. So Pitch, Peninsula, I don't know what the I stands for, Community Health, sir?
Initiative.
Institute, Peninsula Institute. I mean, Alan was there and is on that committee. They've established a kind of a focus group more so than anything. It's not even a steering committee. It's kind of a focus group, isn't it, Alan? And to try to bring the people together that would make input.
Now, my question is, how does this relate to us is this something that we're doing for informational purposes, or it will potentially impact something that we have to make any decisions on as a council?
Well, I think we'll end up having to endorse it when it comes, but it's not something that we necessarily have to fund. So from a funding standpoint, that's not why they've come to us. They've said, there's a problem here, we've got a solution for it, we need to find out if it mixes with the doctors that are providing. The whole theory is that there'll be no pay, sliding scale, and full pay with insurance and such. The hope is that it will reduce the number of emergency room visits of the non-pay. The hospital has agreed to help. They've even agreed to even perhaps provide some space, at least initially, for the clinic. So there are lots of things that are just up in the air at this point. It's still in the investigatory stage. But I think it could be good for the community. The one thing, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The one thing I expressed to them at our very initial outset was that before we had at the first meeting we had over here, I said, I don't want to have a meeting unless the hospital is present, because I don't want to do anything that would be competitive with the doctors' practices that are already here. And if that is something that the doctors accommodate and see an advantage, is not necessarily competitive, then, let's go to the next step. Dave Fuller was the hospital administrator at the time and met with us, and his experience has been that it's been a help to the hospital and does not really create, at least on the long-term basis, a problem for the physicians. We want to just make sure that we're not competing with them. So, very embryonic. Ms. Rachel.
I find it hard to believe that we wouldn't receive budget requests at budget time. I just don't think.
I just don't know. I don't know what Southampton does for Iowa Medical. I've not even had a chance to ask.
Encouraging is one thing, and taking on additional budget items are another.
Agree.
And I think we have to really review our priorities.
For sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. And we told them that. It's not a budget item for us. Alan, would...
And just to clarify that, the only of the pitches has a number of community health centers that are currently functioning. The only locality that has funded that is the city of Chesapeake. And Chesapeake had money set aside in their budget for long-term care issues, for severe diabetes and such things, for medical issues. And they used the money that was there, and they just took that money that was given to the health department for that service and transferred it over. And the health department, so the city of Chesapeake is funding theirs for 5 years, and they're, so far, all of their agents, all of their health centers except for Virginia Beach have been self-sustaining within 5 years. It is, all of the other ones have been a federal grant. The feds say, here's the money, you have 120 days to open the door. So right now, of course, the federal dollars are not available, but if they become available, the grant will be ready after this advisory committee goes.
And I think what their purpose is now is to get ready so that when they say the money's available, that they can make a move. But we're a long ways from that. But I think with your concurrence that the way we understood it, there's no expectation by the municipality.
All they are asking for is that each little municipality would say, we're welcoming you into the community.
And we'll get back to you, and I appreciate you all volunteering to help. I think that's all I have. Mr. Martin?
Yes, sir. For purposes of the audience who did not have the privilege of reading my information I forwarded to the City Council, I am glad to be here. This is my first meeting. I've appreciated the indulgences the council's given us in our first week, and having to prepare agenda within the first 2 days I was here was rather a daunting task, particularly considering one of the key vacancies we had. But as I reported to the board, I'm very pleased with the can-do attitude of the city staff that pulled together to make this agenda happen. You've already observed a couple of tweaks that we need to make. This will be our situation for at least one more meeting, but we are moving to take care of filling that void as soon as possible, and hopefully that'll help us be better prepared. I also did not change a lot for this agenda. I look forward to getting more input from the City Council on any things that need tweaking with regard to the agenda process, but it's my pleasure to be here. And I've been very well received by the staff and the community. I'm making a strong effort to get out and visit and meet as many folks as I can and attend as many things as I possibly physically can make it happen. And for that, I appreciate your indulgence and your understanding as we go through this transitional phase with better things to come. And I appreciate the opportunity this city council has given me to serve, and I look forward to doing everything I can to make Franklin a better place to live, work, and play. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And, Mr. Mayor, other than that, the only other item, the attorneys advised me of a couple of things the council needs to do and formally to authorize me in certain capacities as city manager, and I'll defer to him if that's appropriate.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we no longer have a clerk of council. The charter provision 3.07 indicates that the council shall appoint a clerk to the council. In the past, the clerk has been the city manager, so I point that out to council for its consideration. The other thing that I would like to ask council to consider, we have ordinances that deal with allowing the city manager to sign documents such as contracts, procurement contracts, grants, certificates of satisfaction, but a lot of times I run into a situation where wants to see an ordinance or a motion or something that says the person signing, which would be the city manager, has that authority. And so I would also like council to consider a motion that would authorize the city manager to sign procurement contracts pursuant to our procurement ordinance, section 23.5-1 and the following sections after that, so that it is pursuant to the established practice that city manager be allowed to sign grant applications, the application being different from the acceptance of the grant. Certainly, any grant that would have to be accepted by council would have to come before council, and at that point, there should be a specific resolution authorizing someone to sign, whether it's the city manager or the mayor. And then just as a quick, easy way to get some business done, when the city gets to a point where they need to release a lien on real estate, for instance, a loan through the home program, gets paid and satisfied in full, and a certificate of satisfaction has to be recorded, it would be much easier if the city manager were authorized to sign a certificate of satisfaction where the city had in fact been paid in full what it was owed. I would consider that to be a ministerial duty, and I would ask that you allow the city manager to do that. So that's what I'm asking. It's basically some housekeeping business that we need to get done.
I'm not sure you mentioned it, but that the city manager serves on, do we need to do those individually, or can we do them as a group?
Well, I think you can do them as a group. I think right now the city manager is on the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, or I didn't bring that with me. I know he's on the jail board, and it seems to me that when we had the discussion at the last meeting, I can't say that we voted on it, but I thought the understanding was that council was simply going to designate those positions as being city manager positions. Whoever filled the chair filled the position.
Correct.
But I can't say that we voted on that. So if you want to vote on that, or if you want me to bring that back as a agenda item next time, when is the next jail board meeting, do you recall? Is that like the fourth Wednesday?
The second Wednesday of March. The second Wednesday is the jail.
Second Wednesday morning.
Second Wednesday morning. So we would have another city council meeting before the next jail board meeting.
Yes.
And I think the city manager is supposed to have a seat on the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission board. I don't know when
Okay,
that...
would you kind of clean that up and bring that to the next council meeting?
I'll do that.
For the appointments.
Okay, I will do that.
But in the meantime, may I have a
Could we
motion?
not do that at the closed session when we're doing boards and commissions and
We
have that as a part of
probably
it?
weren't gonna, he doesn't have it,
Okay.
and unless there are others, we were not even gonna go to closed session.
Okay, sorry, I
Unless
saw
there
it
are
on the
other
agenda.
appointments.
You
Yeah.
got me confused.
No, that's fine. So may I have a motion to authorize the city manager to act in those capacities as related to us by the city attorney?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And aye. Motion carries. Good.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
What about the appointment of clerk? What were we gonna?
That was in that.
And the appointment of clerk was included in that out,
Okay.
was my understanding.
Clerk, sign procurement contracts, grant apps, and releases of liens.
Right, 4 things. Thank you.
Wonderful. Good deal. Okay. Okay. Anything else to be brought before the council?
Boards and commissions?
Are there any to
Well,
be done?
we had the business friendly, and one thing I'd like to have on the agenda next time is to discuss, you remember back when we dropped the covenants for the Crudlow Park, because it was doubled with the ordinances. Business friendly also has just passed, and we need to bring it in front of council, and I don't want to do it tonight necessarily, with the airport one as well. The covenants in Isle of Wight more than satisfy what we're doubling up on there as far as covenants go. And both of these would have the IDA, which I'm not sure where we stand on getting that one called. But I know you've been tied up, so.
Well, we just need to do it all in one meeting.
Right,
So-
exactly. And so.
Barry, are you suggesting that we rely on the Isle of Wight covenant
That is correct.
and not have our own?
That is correct, because their ordinances would take precedence, and they're far surpassed what we have.
Okay. So that just kind of cleans things up.
Exactly, and it
Okay.
keeps the businesses, if we have one wanting to go
Don't
in
have to
there.
satisfy
having-
two.
Right, well, they have to satisfy 3 there anyway, because they also have to go in front of the FAA and
Right.
satisfy theirs, but we can't do anything with that.
Right.
But we can make it as easy as possible.
Okay, very good.
I'd like to have that brought up at the next one. And we're also in the business-friendly in discussion as far as business licenses, et cetera, for the farmer's market, and some discussion on that. But we're not set on any on that yet. We're going to have some more discussion.
I think there's some legalities there as with the Commissioner of Revenue and various other things.
Well, that's, we're going to invite her to the next meeting and have some discussions.
Hopefully we can get
She
geared
just
up.
doesn't know it yet until tonight.
But don't tell her.
So that's a future item.
And as far as boards and commissions are concerned, the only thing else I would bring up is, we had talked at our last meeting about having the Parks and Recreation meet with us in a joint meeting, and it seemed as though that was being put off for a rather inordinate period of time. There seems to be some really good energy on that committee at this point, and I took the liberty of asking Mr. Martin to look at his schedule to see what other things might be as or more important that would occupy time over the next 2 or 3 meetings. And he has been invited to attend their next committee meeting, which will be in March on a Tuesday. And then our second meeting in March would be on the 26th. So I would suggest, with your permission, that we have our joint meeting with them, or our work session meeting with them on the 26th of March. And that way we don't put it out there, because they really want to ask some questions, get clarity, bring some suggestions, and there's some real energy that I think is very positive.
I'm in support of that.
Yeah, one committee that the city manager has been on in the past, which I think meets prior to the next council meeting, is the regional trash meeting. That's on March the 6th. And,
Yeah, we're hosting it here, I believe.
Pardon me?
We're hosting it here.
That's correct. I need you with the key.
What time is that meeting?
I've got it on the calendar.
It starts at 7:30, but, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's 7:30 meeting.
Morning.
no, night.
And who's on that committee, Barry, beside you?
It's myself, Mr. Williams is on it, Everett Williams is on it.
One member of city
and
council?
Just me,
Okay.
right. And then, because we need some legal, we've got the
Right.
man with SEPs on there, and we've got the city manager on there, and myself.
And at this point, we're all just working together.
That's duplicated, or
Got it.
triplicated, I guess, with the other two, so.
So I want a
And
10-minute
you also-
in case
I'm
you need to
sorry.
do a notice or anything.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to attend that in case we need to do a notice or anything. I don't know if any more council people.
Mr. McElroy, I'm not sure that that's the kind of thing that we would do, only in that we've appointed representative committees from the three groups to meet and then come back to us. I don't know if there's any prohibition, I just think that that isn't the way it was set up. It was set up to
Okay,
have.
as long as there's no prohibition, there's no problem.
Well, I think out of courtesy to the other organizations, I would recommend that you reconsider
Well,
that.
Well, I mean, the members would have dialogue.
Right,
and
Yeah.
anybody
the
can
others would-
attend to look and hear, listen.
Okay. Are there any other reports?
I have a couple.
Okay.
I was given some information, we have not met as a committee on the tax exempt nonprofit status, but there has been some meetings going on, and I've been given some information, and hopefully before long, we'll have another meeting, and we'll have a presentation ready to be made.
Okay.
And the Housing Authority met last Thursday night, and it was a really good meeting. It was very efficient and very short. Our executive director is really good at giving us the information and providing the explanations that we need so we can get through it. So we're real pleased with that. And I think they have met with the city on the reconciling the home funds, and they're beginning to get that nailed down to the right number. And I don't know what the result is, but I know they've met and they're beginning to get everybody on the same page. So one doesn't think we're way up here, and the other one think we're way down here. So
Did I
we're moving.
understand that because the prior director didn't want that responsibility, that we were trying to abdicate that, but the new director might be interested in that and would probably want to retain that?
That was actually in his purview under his old job.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So the retention of that as the agency for our home funds is probably on your table.
well, I think he will bring that, or somehow city staff, and it will come
Okay,
about if
okay.
that's a
Yeah.
recommendation.
Whether
I think we deferred on that resolution anyway, or that.
Yeah, we did.
recommendation. Yeah.
We did.
He just saw that as a very useful tool in what the Housing Authority is trying to do with home ownership and those types of things, and
Good.
whether we actually get it back underneath us or money is just allocated under there that we can use, might get the same thing. But
Okay.
he hadn't really come forward with a proposal yet, but he is very interested in it.
Well, yeah, Mr. Mayor, one thing, at the senior services meeting that we both attended, there was something on there about the grandparents program. Do you still have that information, or do we need to get somebody from them to come talk to us?
I did not get any information. on
You didn't
that.
get any more?
Okay. I hadn't.
Then I may check with them and see if
Would
they
you?
have something to come and just make a presentation on that program, where the grandparents are working with kids and reading, et cetera.
Any other reports? If not, I think we're at the point of asking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 And aye, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Beautiful community.